Hey everybody, it's Leslie Jordan, and I am doing my new one-man show called Fruit Fly, which answers the age-old question, do gay men become their mothers, at the Leicester Square Theatre, and I am having tea with Wilma. I found in my mother's house this box of slides from the 1950s. My mother's the baby of 9. My dad's the baby of 4. And when the babies had a baby, I was photographed relentlessly. And I found, a long time ago, well, Wilma, you would remember this at your age. You had the canister of slides, and you would push a button, and they would fall down. They were little slides. And there was this canister. I started looking at all these slides, and it told a story. I mean, it just told this amazing story, because there was myself and my mother through the ages. And I thought, you know, everybody has a mother, but there's something about gay men and their mothers. There's some, I don't know what that is. My playwright friend Del Shores said it wonderfully once. He wrote Sordid Lives, which is kind of a cult movie. There's a scene where the mother, when the gay son tells the mother he's gay, she says, "I know, I've always known, you know." And she said, I don't think that we would have been as close as we have been had you not been. Because I adore you. And there's something, I don't know what that is. And my mother and I, of course, had a rocky period. Here was a woman who let me create a little secret garden. My dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Army. So, but my mother would let me play with dolls and in and out. She says literally, I fell out of the womb and I landed in her high heels. And then when I finally told her, in the play, it's horrible the way she found out, actually. But anyway, when she finally found out, and I told her that I thought I was gay, you thought I would stabbed her. It's like, hello? But, you have to understand my generation. They're men like me directed the choir and got married, and somehow or another we had children. I don't know, we closed our eyes and thought of something. But we had children, and that's what men like me did. And I remember her telling me early on, this isn't in the show really, but telling me, why don't you just live quietly? Live quietly. Because she said, you'll be subject to ridicule. And I don't want that for you. And that was the best advice. But that's not in the play. I should put that in the play. It's the best therapy there is. I'm 57. I lie so much about my age, but I really am. I'm 57 years old. Do the math, 1955. But at 57, I am closer to my authentic self than I've ever been. And as I look back slowly over the years, it was doing these shows. I'm also in recovery from drugs, alcohol. I was, it was the 70s. It was just gay. There was no AIDS. It was just, you have no idea what it was like. It was just, we were out 7 nights a week, and you found a trick. That was what you were out for. You'd get on the phone the next day, call your best. Did you get a trick? Where'd you end up? Blah, blah. But anyway, I can honestly say all my demons have set me free. I'm closer to my authentic self than I've ever been, happier than I've ever been. And as I look in recovery, the rooms of recovery, that's the basis of it, is that we share. There's plenty of things that I have thought to myself, this is off limits. And I have a director who we will fight, and I'll tell him a story in private, and he'll say, that should be on stage. I'll go, there's no way! And you, having seen the show, know some of the stories. My favorite quote is comedy is tragedy 2 weeks later. But some tragic things that I went through as a child, and coming out, my coming out process. And so, but he says to me, like you said, it will strike a nerve, it will ring a bell, as long as it's done, with humor. But I walk home every night from here and every theater. I do 45 cities a year, and every night I walk home with this thought: why do you regurgitate your life every night? What do you think it's that interesting? And then I stop, and I'll get home, and there'll be an email, or I'll have a fan packet of letters, or someone will come up to me at the theater, and say, I lost my mom recently, and I cannot tell you what this meant to me. And I think, there's something, I'm doing something right, The book is more my Hollywood journey. 1982, I stepped off a bus. I couldn't even afford an airplane. This is from Tennessee. This would be like going from London to God, the other side of the world. And I had $1,200 that my mother had sewn into my underpants. Because this would have been 82. You didn't have ATMs everywhere where you could pull the cash out. She wanted to make sure I had $1,200 that I had saved in my underpants and a suitcase. And that was 1982, and it's been a 30-year journey. So the book is more about that. It's very gossipy about famous people I've worked with and the whole Will and Grace story. But Simon & Schuster, who were my publishers, didn't know that they were going to get the recovery stories well, and I didn't either. But as I began to write, there was a descent, too, into insanity during that period in Hollywood, where I can watch myself in a rerun on television and know whether I'm high or not. One time, many years ago, worked with an actor who could never remember his lines. And this was not a one-man show. And I had an actress friend that we sat on a little poof, and it was a period piece, and we're side by side. And then this actor, his line was, I will vouch for her virginity. That was his line in some old play. I can't. He goes, I'll virtue, and she got tickled next to me. And she finally leaned in and said to me, what effing play is he in? And I got tickled. And, you just can't do that, that you just can't. But that had never happened to me. We could not quit laughing. And I had the next line. And they finally pulled the curtain. And I got fined by the union because you just can't stop the show like that. Because there was nothing, the audience didn't know what was funny. And I had to go before a little tribunal. The one, people think there was ad-libbing. Will and Grace had 12 writers. So there was a very strong line between you're an actor and we're the writers, and we could not ever ad-lib. We could try something in rehearsal, but I noticed over the years it never made it to the script. I think in the room they had a rule: do not let the inmates run the asylum or we're all in trouble. But they would write for me. I mean, my favorite is, of course, well, Karen Walker, I thought I smelled gin and regret. That was one of my favorites. Another one that someone came up to me and reminded me of that I didn't even remember saying. I do not remember this. Apparently, the first time I ever met Will, I looked him up and down and then smiled, and he began to talk. And I turned to whoever I was with and said, ooh, not as interesting when it speaks. Not as interesting when it speaks, which is, but that I'm so proud. I won an Emmy for that, for Best Guest Actor in a Comedy, which, and I look back over the years, and I think I've done sitcoms for 30 years. I could have been nominated for anything but for that show, and especially in America, that was the turning point for gay people. I really do think it was. That was when we turned the corner, right in there. And I do remember at the beginning of the show, I would be walking somewhere and someone would say, I've seen you on, what show are you on? I'd go, Will and Grace. They'd always, straight guys would say, my girlfriend watches that show. Never would they say. By the end of that show, I would have construction workers on the street yelling, hey, you're funny. Well, I watch that show. It's a funny show. You think, now that's progress. Hey, come and see me. It's funny, funny, funny. If you've got a mom, or you had a mom, or you hated your mom, or you love your mom, whatever, it doesn't matter. Me, come see me. It's at the Leicester Square Theatre, LeicesterSquareTheatre.com. Come see me. You'll regret it if you don't.